welcome everyone to another episode of the Espresso series. We've got a couple of special guests again this week. Tom Panos is back, Australia's #1 real estate coach, and everyone wants to know why I know that. It's because bloody Tom keeps telling me that he's the #1 Australian real estate coach. So welcome, Tom.
Thank you. Without sounding like Josh Tesselin, you know what it is.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know why I even said that.
That's right.
We hear about it a bit.
We do hear about it a lot. And also we've got Rate My Age at the Rising Star winner, Paul Shawala. Only 2 years in real estate and gone from zero to the rising star. So welcome, Paul.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on. Very excited.
No worries at all. Hey, let's get stuck straight into it. Paul, mate, it's probably a little bit of a different question to start off here, but I watched your video on Facebook the other day, and it was bloody good, to tell you the truth. It was very open and raw and honest, but it spoke about, mental health and how you got into real estate, and how it helped you, going to the gym and helping you stay focused. I'd be really interested just for you to tell people just really briefly. That video went for 20 minutes, but that story of how you got into real estate and the passion that you've developed was
thanks for watching that video. I mean, without going right into it again, because like I said, that was a 20-minute video, but I have gone past and come from well over a decade of mental health, anxiety and depression, had some really, really dark years and struggled a lot. And getting into real estate, I actually didn't, I suppose, choose to be in real estate. I kind of stumbled into it. And it's funny how everything sort of works out. I was going through a bit of a rough patch, and my wife dragged me out of bed one Saturday morning and said, "Paul, we got to go and look at this. We've got to go look at this house that's on the market." And I said, "I'm not interested. We're not selling. We're not buying. We're doing nothing." She said, "Come on, humour me. Let's go and have a look." And went to the open home, met Christian Marchetti, who's my business partner at the moment, and got talking, caught up with him a week later and said, "Tell me a little bit about real estate." And that was late 2017. That's when the market turned and things started to really fire up. And there was a spot there and got a gig and fell in love with it. Within weeks, it transformed my life. Real estate has transformed my life, 100%.
Yeah, and it sounds like from a mental point of view, it was a huge positive because I think in your words, you hated where you were, and a lot of that was you hated your job, and you found a bloody job you loved, and it probably had a huge positive impact on your mental health.
It did, and I can talk about it because it was a family business. My folks owned a couple of panel shops, so I'm a spray painter by trade, and I was kind of pulled into that job from high school. I never really knew what I sort of wanted to do, but I sort of followed Dad's footsteps, and I was only in the job for a couple of years before I realised that wasn't what I wanted to do, and I just had well over a decade of no job satisfaction whatsoever, no sense of achievement. I had no purpose, so I was kind of just running on idle, but real estate has changed my outlook on life. It really has. So. Lucky that Emily dragged me out of bed that morning.
Yeah, that's what good wives are for, dragging you out of bed.
Yeah, well,
you usually with a list of things that you have to do around the house, but that was a good.
There's still those. Don't worry about that.
Hey, Tom. I reckon the perception, just moving on from that, the perception of real estate agents is that they're very up and about and they're very chatty and they're but mental health permeates the whole of society. Do you see a lot of it in real estate, and how do people deal with it?
I do. I think a lot of people do live double lives, and what I mean by that is that they might be posting all the life coaching affirmations that you see on social media. They might be talking all the talk in front of people, but my experience is that when people come to me often, and they come to me, I often say to think of myself as not a coach, but a panic button person. They hit me up because I've been open and vulnerable about, not having to suffer silently, and they open up. And I think the truth is, Mark, that there is a lot of real estate agents that suffer silently because they believe it is weak to show that you can't handle stress, that it is weak to show that you're not a winner. It is weak to show that you're vulnerable. and they put on a fake facade. My experience is that they're actually very emotional and very sensitive. And a lot of people that have got good people skills are. That's what makes them good. They've got empathy, but this same quality of empathy makes them sometimes hypersensitive. And they can catastrophize and they can dramatize. Like, there are real estate agents now in Melbourne that are saying, "Oh, Tom, it feels like I'm in a jail." Well, I mean, that's a rough word. Jail is you're sort of eating jail food. You're not seeing family. You're worried about your health and safety. It's a big difference. Like, don't compare, level 4 lockdown to jail, right? So the answer is yes, I do see it.
Yeah, I guess in a sense, it's almost like a mental jail. The mind is a powerful and to some extent dangerous sort of thing, I guess, if you can't get out of your own mind. I mean, I suffer from that a little bit, just stopping the mind, stopping it from working and just saying, just relax for bloody, even going on, we were talking about holidays before, even just taking a week of just saying, you know what, that is not that important for me to worry about at the moment. We were also talking yesterday, Paul, just about the idea that, agents being scared and there's that fear of, if I stop, I might actually go back to, if I wasn't in a great place before, your example of being in a job you didn't like. Yeah. If I stop doing what I'm doing, am I going to slip back into where I was before? Do you think that, do you relate to that?
That's a big motivator for me. A lot of people everyone's motivated by different things, and everyone is driven by, some people want the flashy cars and the big homes and all that. That's what drives them, because, they're chasing money, which is fine. In sales, let's be honest, everyone's chasing money. But my biggest driver is the fear of where I've come from, 100%. And I think a lot of that has come to my success and where I am today, because as much as I know that I wouldn't let myself slip back to where I wasn't in a good place, believe me, but there's always that mental fear and anxiety, which I still deal with every day. Anxiety is real. There's no cure for it. You've got it. There's always that fear in the back of your mind that, hey, if I don't keep my momentum up and I don't keep pushing and striving to get better and better and better and doing all these right things and reaching out to people like Tom and other agents around the country, there's a fear that I could slowly slip back into a life that wasn't a good life. So I'm always driven by chasing and chasing and chasing, which for some people might think is not great, but it's almost just like I've got a little bit of I'm always looking over my shoulder and remembering where I come from. I think that's important. I always do things, and I'm happy to talk about where I come from, because it's a reminder. Reminding and talking openly about mental health the emotion comes back when you think about it. It's a reminder of where I've come from, and I don't want to go back there again. So it allows me to push on and take my business to different levels, Absolutely.
Yeah. I think a lot of, do you think that's a positive thing, Tom? Like that driver, I mean, it probably is quite common. And I think we all three of us probably suffer from it a little bit. Do you think it's healthy? Do you think it's a good or a negative in our own minds?
I think it's nature, because if you look at the research, and Daniel Kahneman studied some incredible research in 1979, that people will do more to avoid pain than to gain pleasure. He actually did he won the Nobel Prize for working out that people feel more pain losing $1 than pleasure winning $1, right? This research underpins what Paul has just basically said. And I was listening to Joe Rogan interview Sebastian Maniscalco, who is, I think, the highest paid comedian in the world because of his Netflix deals. He said, he got interviewed, and Rogan said to him, what drives you? Why are you, like you're the best in your category now. And he says, what drives me is I have this paranoia, this fear that I'm going to become irrelevant, that no one's going to listen to me, and I'm going to be that guy that worked in a retail shop once again. So I've got this absolute fear that I don't want to go back to that world, and that forces me to keep creating new content, to be improving myself as a performer, to go out there and put myself out there, to get more work. And I think, so the answer is, Mark, It doesn't surprise me. You're right. Probably you, I, and Paul share that quality, but maybe a lot of the 8 billion people on this planet can probably relate that pain and aversion to pain is a driver. Is it healthy or not? I don't think it's good spending every minute of the day saying, shit, I better get on the phone and ring this person, because if I don't, I'm going to end up going back. So feeling guilty is not a good thing. And, in fact, and I'm going to say it's one of the biggest things I see with the best of the best agents. The best of the best that I work with, I notice they suffer from a thing called the gap. And the gap is, Mark, they start off here, right? They start off with nothing, right? They might have been working at a panel shop, or they're working at McDonald's, right? Josh Tesselin, you know, drops out of uni working, I don't know what he was doing, but he was working as a property manager when he first got in. What happens is they make progress. And what happens is they're here now. They've done well. But instead of them looking back and saying, shit, I've done well, I've made progress, what they keep looking at is forward, the gap. But he's doing better. I should be doing better. And they've got this total discontent on where they are now versus where they can be. And now Paul's nodding his head because he might be able to relate to it. And I've got to say, Mark, it's actually a driver in one sense. It creates a sense of urgency. But the other side of it is you can spend your whole life striving, and never arriving because you've got this discontent.
100%. You don't know where the finish line is. Is there a finish line? You know.
And if you're not enjoying the journey, what's the point? You know.
No, that's right.
And I think that's the characteristic for a few people out there, including all of us, is that, you know, it's one of the things in sales, I think, and also, you know, you talk about a comedian or an actor. You're only as good as your last job. You know, you're only as good as the month you've just finished. And it's one of those rare things where you get to the end of the month and all that hard work gets zeroed out and you're back to the start, you know, and unless you appreciate what you did and enjoy what you did the month before, you're basically, you're constantly pulling against that rubber band, I guess.
Yeah. 100%. It's interesting that.
Hey, we also spoke yesterday, Tom, just about, you know, you had a few insights into Paul and what makes him so successful. And a part of it was his relaxed nature and how he relates to people. How important do you think that is? And I made the comment that I think it's a lot to do with the new age real estate agent, that, you know, the whole power suit, and you both drive Teslas. So I was just going to use the car example, but you've both, you know, I should be the Tesla driver. I'm the tech person. But anyway, I don't have a garage at home, so I can't do it. But how important do you think that is, that new age agent, you know, not positioning themselves as being better than their customer, but just being a part of the community? Because again, we both agree that that's a real strength of Paul's.
Yeah.
So I think it's actually the super weapon, the secret power of the modern agent, the ability to actually come across to a consumer where the consumer at the end of it goes, shit, this girl or guy is different. We're not expecting that. We're expecting someone that was going to have a sledgehammer and hit us down if we're a vendor. Or we're expecting the agent to be saying, you better buy this one, because if you don't, I've got someone that's going to buy it this afternoon. So occasionally they meet someone that's sort of relaxed, straight talking, gives them permission to actually act like how they want to be, helps that client take off their mask, because every vendor and buyer's got a mask. They're worried. Commission breath, agent commission breath. I've got to be careful. And I think that, Mark, Paul's got this combination of authentic. Even the Tesla shows that the guy is someone that is mindful of the environment. He's also got what I call TQ, technology acumen. And that to me is something that the agents in the last 3 years that are smashing it with reviews, with their social media posts on Facebook and Insta, and with their live streams, this TQ, technology acumen, coupled with a decent person, a bit of hunger and people skills that they can read the play. I pretty much summarised Paul. I think he's got that combination, right?
We're talking about him like he's not here.
And that's what I think makes Paul so good. That combination, street smart, can read the play, TQ, have embraced technology, have a bit of hunger, right? And then add a decent person to it. Hard to go wrong.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think, yeah, I mean, that's where that's something I think when you start off if I look back over the last 2 years, I mean, I haven't been in real estate for that long, but I think at the beginning of your career, you need to make a decision what road you want to go down and what sort of salesperson you want to be known as. Do you want to be known as the agent that will piss in anyone's pocket to get the business, tell people what they want to hear, and say all the things with the commission breath? Those don't relate to reviews. I've always been really direct. And if I go back and actually read through, and I did the other day, I actually read through all my reviews, and you notice that a lot of them a lot of people relate and they say that Paul is very no BS. And I'm probably one. There can't be many more people around that's as direct as me, I don't feel. I'm just straight down the line. I just talk to people like they're my mate. And when, Tom, you mentioned before, you're talking to people and they expect you to get the hammer out and smash them, I'll openly say to people that this is just what my job is. You do what you do, I do what I do, but there shouldn't be a barrier between you and I. This is what you just employed me for. Very direct, open conversations. And I always remember, Tom, you said another thing, that not everyone is your client. You said that to me early on. And I always remember that, because you can't walk into somebody's home after doing well over 10 and decide that for these particular people, I'm going to talk fluff. I'm not going to continue with being the direct and saying things, how I always have. Not everyone is your client. So some people don't like it, and that's fine. They're not my client. At the start of my career, I made that decision that I was going to be straight down the line, and it's worked well for me. And I don't do it. It's not forced. It is what it is. I'm just a person.
I think that, I think what you're talking about there, that idea of, getting to know someone and putting yourself in their shoes, and then essentially saying, well, look, if I was in your shoes, with my knowledge, this is what I would do. You sort of, I'm not a very religious person, but that idea of treating other people like you want to be treated.
Yep.
I don't want to make you do something that I wouldn't do, but I would be doing this if I'm in your shoes. And I think it's an amazing quality to have. And quite frankly, for both you and Josh, in such a short space of time, you've gone from, using, I think Josh has got a very similar quality. He's a bit more gregarious about it, and he likes to tell people about it a bit more than everyone else, but same sort of qualities. Yeah. But you guys have gone from new to the industry to basically opening up your own businesses within less than 3 years.
Yeah.
Tom, what do you think is the most important thing about people like Paul and Josh? When is the right time to make that call about opening your own door and getting away from the big brand and saying, okay, I've got enough momentum, my name is enough and my reputation's enough to actually put my name on the door and go for it?
Okay, so and Mark, in Josh's case, he's opened an office, but he stayed with he went to a big brand. He went to Ray White.
He did.
But to answer your question, when is the right time? For some people, it's never the right time. I actually think that there's a group of people that probably lack the entrepreneurship that's needed and probably are going to lack the management skills to have a company. I mean, you've got a big company now yourself, Mark, and you know that when you move from solo to being a big organization, there are things like culture, leadership, spreadsheets, right? And you've got to be prepared to, if you're not doing it, at least have a bit of an awareness of what they all mean when you own a business, right? So for many people, they shouldn't actually do it. But if you're the person who on a Sunday night is depressed for most of the year because you're going into something that you feel in your heart, I can do this better, smarter, and I want it to be an expression of myself, then you should probably look at doing it. But if you want to open up a business because you think, hey, I'm on 60% now, but if I open up a business, I'll be on 100%, that is not the reason to open up a business, because you're not getting the other 40%. The other money needs to go. Rent needs to be paid. Staff need to be paid. There are subscription costs that you've got to pay, right? You know, REA, domain, rate my agent, the REIs, whatever you've got to pay. The point I'm making is you should really be doing it, because what you want to do is not only just grow a business, but you also want to grow people. Because when you become a manager, you no longer just list houses. You have to start list people.
Correct.
That's a great line. Not listing houses. You're right. But building a team and getting a. I know from my point of view, one of the most important things when I started Rate My Agent was I had 2 business partners at the time, and Zav left a couple of years ago to pursue other things. But Ed, my other business partner, we actually have complementary skill sets. My attention to detail is virtually non-existent, and I couldn't run a business without Ed there, whose attention to detail is so complimentary to me.
Yeah.
Paul, obviously you've got a business partner, and I probably noticed without question, but how important is that business partner in the success of your business? I assume
it's massive. I mean, Christian's he's been around for quite some time. He's probably a little bit more involved in the administrational side of things than I am. Look, I just want to list and sell homes. I think that's usually what good salespeople, all they want to do. So Christian and I are yin and yang. We do things very different the way we go about business. He's a good writer. He sells a lot of property and writes good fees. But I think I'd probably struggle a little bit trying to do this on my own without having that support. Absolutely. I think it's important to have a good business partner. And I asked Tom about that as well. In fact, the lead up to starting my own business was quite quick. I mean, I caught up with Tom when he was in Melbourne and told him what I was thinking about doing. And then I rang him up one day and I said, Tom, I'm thinking about doing this with someone else. What are your thoughts? And we had a brief chat about it. And I think 2 weeks later, I said, mate, I've actually resigned. I'm gone. But yeah, I think it's important that business partner, it's got to be right. You've got to have a good team.
I think it's a very lonely place if you don't have someone that you can pick up the phone and say, hey, we're going through some hard yards. And if you're doing that on your own, it's much, again, I know from my point of view, having a business partner that you can go and have a beer with and say, shit, it's a bit harder than we thought it was going to be. And, it's nice to have that shoulder to sort of lean on.
Exactly right. And it goes back to, all those subscriptions, they bloody add up. There's a lot of outgoing, if that was a good comment. If you're thinking about going to open your agency because you think you're just going to be 40% better off, because I was on 60%, it's absolutely not the case at all. There's much more things involved in why you want to open a business than think that you're going to earn more money. It's just not, it doesn't work like that.
And as we all agree, the Rate My Agent subscription is probably the most important one there. We'll move on to.
Hey, it's one of the dearest. Maybe we should hang on. Maybe we should hang on the line for a little bit afterwards.
Yeah, that's right. We'll negotiate afterwards. Hey, we've got a few questions coming through. Ron's just asked a question. I haven't read it, but how would you deal with the common feelings of rejection or failure in real estate? Many people deal with these things throughout life, from parents, teachers, peers, whatever. What is a good approach to the process of those feelings? Because I guess, real estate, there's a lot of rejection. You pitch a business, you think the person's going to go with you and they don't. How do you deal with that, Paul?
Yeah, that's look, I'm still learning with that as well. I haven't mastered that. No one likes losing the business. I mean, I think anyone watching this will relate that sometimes you walk out of a home and you'd just about put anything on the table that you've got that signed up. That's in the bag. And then 2 days later or 3 days later, because they go missing, and you miss it. So rejection, no one likes losing the business, but again, not everyone is your client. And I keep telling myself that as well. I repeat it over and over and over, that I think it's good just to learn where that rejection's come from and just try and work out a pattern and see if there's something there that you can work on it. I always ask people why I missed the business, and I always ask everyone, probably ask people more so why I did get the business. And you'll start to get patterns. So rejection, it's not fun, especially in real estate, because you take it personally, and every vendor says, Don't take it personal, Paul. Don't take it personal. Don't take it personal. You take it personal every time. You take it personal. It sucks. But I think you just learn a pattern, and you learn to move on, because the next day the phone will ring and you're on somewhere else. So.
And I think from the vendor point of view, when they say that, I think in some respects it can be a toss of the coin for them. You know, they suffer anguish over it as well, because someone's not going to get the listing. And you know, one of the things in real estate that we all know is there's a lot of wonderful people in real estate. There's this perception that all real estate agents are dickheads. No, 80% of the real estate agents, of course, there's dickheads in every industry, but there's a huge chunk of really wonderful people that you'd want to have a beer with and forget selling real estate. So I think vendors suffer that anguish as well. That it's a really hard decision. But Tom, we've got another question here from Helen. I'm relatively new to the business, but I'm doing a lot of buyer calls and past vendors. What are your tips for building rapport over the phone? Because I guess we're all on the phone nowadays.
Yeah. So, Helen, my response to that is the phone, by the way, was the first virtual selling tool that existed. Virtual selling is anything that is not face-to-face, belly-to-belly, which is the most profound technology tool in the last 30, 40 years, is still to me the number one tool that an agent has. My response would be that everything that you're doing on a phone should be leading up to what is called a first date. A first date is where you get eyeball to eyeball. So I would suggest, Helen, what you've got to be trying to be doing in your conversations is knowing that what you want to lead up to is either a Zoom call or a face-to-face. Now, if you're saying that you're dealing with buyers, let me just give you this piece of dialogue, Helen, that can help you actually use buyer opportunities to get into people's houses. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming over on Saturday and looking at our house. One of the things I do is during the week, I pop into people's properties for 15 minutes and I do a buyer assessment, working out exactly what people are looking for. I do those on Wednesday and Thursday afternoons. Can I ask you what day's better, Wednesday or Thursday? And then what you do, Helen, is you use the opportunity of having a buyer assessment meeting. All of a sudden you're in their home and they're going to ask you, hey, by the way, since you're here, what do you think of this place? And that is a smart way of converting a phone call into a face-to-face opportunity. And to be quite honest with you, that is step one of a listing presentation. Once you're in their home and have met them, it's only going to go forward from there.
100%. I'll add on that as well. And a very simple thing is I've always had a lot of success with is over the phone, door knocking and over the phone, building rapport. Talk about anything other than real estate. At the moment that someone is giving me the lead that we can take this conversation anywhere other than real estate, you're on, because you'll have a 7 or 8, 10-minute conversation about their family, their interests. When they realize, hey, we're actually on the phone, I'm talking to a real estate agent, this guy's actually not a bad person, but let's get back to business. You one up. Anytime I'm talking to someone, if there's a window of opportunity to talk about anything other than real estate, take it every single time. Don't always think business, or always take it away from business.
I used to have a mantra when I was, ran buyers advocacy business for a long time, and it was a simple rule, and that is, people will do business with people they like. And you build that relationship. If you build a relationship and they like you, they're not only inclined to do business with you, but they potentially will pay more to do business with you because they want to do business with someone they like. Helen says, thank you, love it. And Tamara says, not all agents are villains, some are superheroes. And I think that's right as well. Some agents bloody work their gut. I mean, a lot of agents work their guts out and solve significant problems for people, get people out of financial strife and a whole lot of things. We've got one last question here. We like to keep these things quite short, but Priya asks, how to work under pressure, especially in this pandemic situations where we won't get much results, even if we work hard. And obviously the directors, seniors want the results only. So you're getting pressure from directors. but the newcomers only in the industry for 1 year. How do we deal with this? So how do we deal with the pressure of, I guess directors wanting more business and
That's
there's
probably a
pandemic
good
going
one
on?
for you to answer there, Tom, being a mentor and coach. It's probably...
Okay, so Priya, let's talk about two scenarios here. One, if you're working in Melbourne, which is stage 4 lockdown, I would say it is fair to say the chances of getting a listing or making a sale are lower than if you weren't in stage 4, right? So you've got to actually say to yourself, hey, let's not feel guilty about not getting a listing or a sale. But I'm also going to tell you, I've got a client in New Zealand, Ray White Remuera, that's come out of stage 4 lockdown that did $92 million in the first month out of lockdown. That's $92 million worth of sales. That's like $2 million in commission. And what they did, Priya, is they ensured that even though they weren't getting listings during stage 4 lockdown, they ensured that they were having quality conversations with people that were going to do business after lockdown. So what actually happened is that they'd set up a chase list of people. And I've got to say, Daniel Andrews has basically said you can't get COVID by talking on the phone. You can't spread COVID by talking on the phone. So yes, there is pressure, but you can still do 3 or 4 hours of talking to buyers, potential sellers, potential vendors on the phone. And the other side of it that she's saying is for newcomers only in the industry for a year, how do you deal with this? Well, let me tell you, make rejection your best friend. And this is going to probably help the question that was earlier on about rejection. I actually don't think rejection is the opposite of success. I actually think it's part of success. And if you want to succeed, you want to fail faster. You'd rather go to 10 listing presentations and miss out on 5 and get 5 and have a strike rate of 50%, so you got rejected 50% of the times, than have a strike rate of 100% and you only went to 1 and you got it. The person that went to 10 and got 5 is far better off, but that person got rejected 5 times. So they had to have the ability not to personalize it. So I think rejection should be your best friend, Mark.
Yeah, and again, Priya, probably the most amount of conversations wins, right? 100%. So if you're in a stage 4, you need to be looking at your next 4 weeks as a setup for success. So if you're going to make 150 calls a day, which would only take a couple of hours, you do that every day. That's 1,050 phone calls, right, a week. I can say that there's probably only 5% of people in real estate during stage 4 lockdown that are on the phone. I reckon most of these people are sitting on their couch, watching TV. When the phone rings, they think, great, it might be an appraisal. I don't reckon many people are making phone calls. So if you make a phone call every day for 4 weeks, something's going to happen.
I got to tell you, Mark, Emma's my favourite. Emma's basically put down for more advice and tips, go to the Real Estate Gym, which I'll...
That's right.
www.realestategym. She's the best. But can I just add to what Paul said? Mark, I reckon there's people in Melbourne right now wearing pajamas right now. There's a small group of people that have basically found permission to actually not even wake up and hey, I got to tell you, Paul, I don't even think the call numbers that you just spoke about there, I guarantee you, if people did 20% of that, right? Life would be so much better than...
How's this? And this is no bull. I decided I was only going to start making phone calls from Monday. The first week in lockdown stage 4, I made a decision that I wasn't going to bug anyone for the first week. I'm going to let everyone settle down. Since Monday, I made 150 calls. Today, I haven't made my calls yet, but I will. I've got 7 market appraisals lined up. 7. It took me a lot of calls, and it probably took me about 85 call. I only got about 85 call connects out of that, but I had some cracking phone conversations. People are very chatty. They want to talk, and I've got 7 appraisals in the book.
Because you're a gun, and that's why you got Rate My Agent Rookie of the Year. Was it for Victoria or for all of Australia?
No, I got Rising Star for all of Australia. And local, I got a few. It was good. We like Rate My Agent.
Priya, and I think the answer there, Priya, is, fill in the funnel. it doesn't matter about a pandemic. You just constantly fill in the funnel of leads, you know, and we were talking about this yesterday that people aren't stopping the process of having to sell. They're just pausing. And as we come out of this, all of those people that couldn't sell over the last 4 weeks are still going to sell. I think this market is going to have a huge amount of supply, you know, certainly as we go into 2020. You know, if we can get through this year, you know, doing that prospecting and just calling and just filling that funnel. And as you said, Paul, 7 appraisals. As soon as you can get through someone's door, there's 7 appraisals.
Yeah.
Hey guys, it's been great. There's a few more questions coming through, but just the last question for you both. Just a really quick. What does the future hold, Paul? Particularly for you, what's the plan over the next couple of years?
Yeah, look, we're only a couple of months into a new business. I think for me, it's about just cementing our place in the market, really cementing our spot. I mean, there's a lot of eyes on us at the moment. You know, I've been in the area for a couple of years, but the business doesn't really have the runs on the board yet. So it's just about cementing our place, organically growing our business to be really strong. We've got a few 3 to 5 year goals, you know, expanding, but at the moment, the next 12, 18 months is survival mode, I guess you'd say, Tom. Just surviving and cementing our spot in the market. That's really it. Just keeping it fairly simple for the moment.
Yeah, beautiful. And Tom, for you,
sorry, mate, and ultimately sticking to our values, I think, as well. I think we need to make sure that we don't drift offline, sticking to what our values are and just going for it. We can't go wrong.
Yeah, beautiful. And Tom, other than world domination, what advice? I know you want world domination. What other advice have you got for people during this COVID, this lockdown, particularly in Victoria? Paul's in Victoria, I'm in Victoria. I guess just keep their chin up and keep filling that funnel. What's the best advice you can give them?
I actually think that for many people, they've got to just shift. Wayne Dyer once said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. I actually think it ain't that bad. I mean, look, someone said to me, "Oh, it's like jail." Well, it ain't like jail. You can eat what you want. You can have your family around you. You can sleep in your own bed, right? There's no such thing as visiting hours, right? You've got it all. You can go out and do a bit of exercise. You've got the luxury of, the research clearly shows, people have got 3 times the amount of time to talk to someone on the phone. You've got an incredible opportunity to sharpen the saw, get your listing presentation to a 10 out of 10 if it's a 6 out of 10. You've got the ability to start working out, hey, how can I get more reviews? What's the plan? What's my strategy? What's my strategy to do more video? You've got all this time in the world to do things and still hang out with your family. I actually think it's the greatest time. You might never get this opportunity ever again.
Yeah.
So get out of your bloody pajamas and pick up the phone. And
pick up the phone, Tom. Tom, pick up the phone. Pick up the phone, Tom.
Pick up the damn phone!
On that note, guys, thank you so much. That was awesome as always.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for
everyone watching. Thank you so much.
Thanks for a great platform. Love Rate My Agent. Big fan. And thanks, Tommy. Thanks, Tom. You got me here today, so thank you. Join the real estate gym if you haven't already. Boom.
Real estate.
People will know what it is.
And one day I'm going to be a company in America like Rate My Agent. Woohoo!
See you guys.